Hello everyone, in this video we'll be building a tutorial website in React in a very easy and a simple way. And here I have an example of what we'll be building and what I built recently, which is a website where I added just the content about different ways of creating React components in TypeScript. As you can see at the top we have a header, then we have a website name itself like hero image placeholder. Also, there's information and also code snippets, and there we have a footer. And this website I built using the tool called Docusaurus. This library is provided by Facebook, and it gives us a very simple way to build this content-based websites in React without worrying about layout, creating pages, etc. And also these pages could be created, websites could be created using minimal coding. It does have other features like document versioning. Also, you can add search using Algolia, so you can have a search bar for your content at the top. And it's also very easy to have the website translated into multiple languages. In addition to building the website, I'll be showing how to deploy it using GitHub Actions, which is also very simple thing to do using it. So let's get started. Okay, so just running this command to create a new Docusaurus site. By the way, I'll be adding my example site in the description as well as the GitHub repo URL for what we'll be building in this video. I'm just gonna rename it this project name. So the templates, they do provide different templates, but we're gonna go with classic. So let's run that. It's gonna download some packages and then start it on the local host. Now just navigating to that project folder and running npm start. Okay, the site is up and running, and to quickly overview what we have here, we have the menu at the top, and then we have this home page. Just because I'll be building a one-page website, I'll be removing additional pages like tutorial, for example. But this is very convenient for someone who wants to have a multi-page tutorial, and then these pages are very easy to set up. I'll show you how it's done. But going back to my site, at the top we also have GitHub URL. We have this small components, and at the end the footer. We'll also be adding the code snippets and removing this little component. So let's go ahead, open up the code and get started with modifying some of the branding and some of the main configuration, which is stored in this file called docusaurusconfig.js. And as you can see, this is where the title and other configuration goes. So for now, let's change the title. This is the tagline that was underneath. And URL, this we will update later on, but for now I'm gonna remove it. This fields here, we'll need it for deployment. Same for this too. Localization, we're gonna leave it for English. And so these presets are in case you want to add more functionality, you do it through presets. Now looking at the theme configuration, navigation bar, also we update here. I'm gonna be removing the logo and just renaming it, same thing. Cyrus. Oops. So as I mentioned, I won't be using any of the other menu items in the navigation bar. So removing the items except for the GitHub one. where we can update this href to our own project repository. For mine, it's quietest React, and I do want it placed on the right. And also, if you want, for example, on my page, I added the YouTube channel link also right as well, and that would go as another object in here. Let's look at the footer. I also did leave maybe only like GitHub in here. So looking at the footer, we have 3 sections, right? Docs, community, and more. And the way this is, sections are divided, each of them have a title and then the items inside. So if you want to remove links and leave only one section, we would be removing this 2 items. So making sure that we don't remove the object halfway through, because then it will like throw error. And let's say if we wanted to add YouTube here and whatever, and in here let's add maybe just the link to YouTube, and you can always, so in URL, let's just have to want to update the homepage. This can be done if we go to the source. By the way, pages is where we create the new pages. You can see we have index.js, but the features, like the components that we are using itself, since this is built in React, is also stored in components folder, and this is called like homepage features. And taking a quick look at how we have here. So we have a list of features, so all the content that we would be displaying inside this like paragraphs. And then we have a functional component in here where we describe and we use this like CLSX to make it adjustable to the screen size. Then we have the image here, title and description, and then this all this list gets mapped out in the end. So when I was building the code blocks, I wanted to do same thing, as in like follow this pattern of not like recreating every component separately, but also having a list of code snippets and then displaying them. So let's first create the functional component to display this code snippets and their descriptions and titles. For that, we can use a component that's provided for the code blocks itself from Docusaurus. It's called code block from code block. And below our feature, let's create our component. So function, I'm gonna name it paragraph, and this will be taking in 3 things. It would be the title, description, and the code itself. You can also name a code block. And let's return so let's give it a class name, and we want this code blocks to be each have their own like separate rows, and text we're going to center it. So inside here we will have just one column. And let's create the div itself for the content. This would be text would be centered in here, and then add a little bit of padding. So here now adding our title. So just like in React, the variables are wrapped in curly brackets. Heading 3, then p tag for description, and another container for the code block itself. And this is where we use the feature code block from Docusaurus. We would want the code itself to be left aligned, so that's why I wrapped it in a div. And then we pass language. By default it's JavaScript, I believe, but I was using TypeScript, so I'm gonna pass that. And code block that will be coming in as props. Okay, so let's just, before we create a list of all the content, let's just, as an example, display one. So just because we don't need these features anymore, I'm gonna be in our paragraph where title, let's give tutorial one, description would be, this is tutorial, and so for the code block, actually, let me start this. So for code block, it's tricky because it always has to be wrapped in define a type. So type tutorial equals to title, this is string, and then description string. This is just like a dummy code, so it has really nothing to do with what we are creating here. Just close this one out. Here we have our code snippet with the description and the title. Let's also move this, center this, and then create a list of all these blocks that we would want to display and map them out using the component that we created. So first, let's, I'm gonna change this to text center, and here at the top, similar to how we have features list, I would create the list for the blocks. So this would be instant code snippets list, and creating a new array, and then objects would be all the three fields that we described for the component. So title, then again, this is an example, so it could be whatever you want. Description. So code block, we have to remember to wrap into the parentheses and then the backticks. Inside description, if we wanted to add some HTML, that is also possible, and same way that we wrap code block in parentheses, we would wrap this in parentheses, so like this, and in here we would have like a fragment. If we wanted to make a p tag, h tag, doesn't matter, we can use that. So for the rest of the, and then here we just paste the code as it is. So for the rest of the examples, I'm just gonna paste my examples. Okay. Okay, as you can see how like inside code block we have codes and description for every single one of them. And then let's take the name of this list, which is code snippets list, and use it in here. So code snippet list dot map, and then we need returning here, and then this is where we initialize paragraph with title being code snippet title. We can do it this way. We can also, if we don't want to type each field, so we can use code snippet the title, right, and then the same thing for rest of the fields. But if we don't want to type it out, what we can do is we can say, so this is props, and let's give it an index, and we'll also give key equals to idx. And then we'll pass all the props down like this. So removing the name of this, and inside here 1 2 3 like the spread operator, and closing the paragraph cell, and I'm going to remove this extra paragraph in here. Okay, let's go and reload the page. Oh, okay. Here we can see all our items using the components. Okay, now in terms of like branding, we did change logo, title. For the changing colors or just in general any CSS, we can come to this custom CSS, and if we like, let's say, create new components, give them names, and then want to add styling for them, this is where we declare the styles. For like changing colors, I changed mine to like blue colors, and this is like the color palette it's using, like the 7 layers of it. So we would just like go and update this color, and the way I generated these 7 different like shades of colors was going to this website, which is called, and where you get also, you can select if you want like 7 or less layers, and then you can like add different colors. Okay, so now the website is here. You can see we have a different color. So now the website, our like 1-page tutorial is ready. Let's look into how to deploy it. As I mentioned, we are coming back to this Docusaurus config file, and here we have to update few fields, starting off with URL. This should be URL of your GitHub. We would be using GitHub pages to deploy this for free. And for the base URL, that would be your repository name. So for URL, I have just my GitHub pages URL. The way you can check, it should most likely be your GitHub username .github.io, but if that is not the case, you can also go to your project like repository itself and go to pages in here, and once you navigate to the pages like settings, you should be able to see like this. So the first part would be URL, second part would be base URL. So let's copy that, and same thing for organization name. If your repo is using your like personal account, that would be your username. As for the project name, that would also be just the name of the repository. Another thing that we need to add is the deployment branch. So if you have usually like worked with GitHub pages, you know that there's a separate branch where the build gets pushed and from where the website gets deployed. Usually this is GH pages. So we'll create this new branch afterwards, and this was just a recommendation that sometimes GitHub ignores the trailing slashes in the documentation for Docusaurus, so we have to indicate it either as true or as false. As for the deployment branch, once you have decided which branch you want to use for deployment, make sure that you're not using master, you're using different branch. Go back to the GitHub settings and just check if that branch is selected from here, because that's what GitHub would use for the deployment. Okay, so now what we can do is we can create build for our page. So npm run build, and then we can deploy also using just like one command, which is where you indicate your GitHub username and deploy. So here So while this build is running, I'm going to paste this build command here, replace it with my username. And I'm not using yarn, I'm using npm. So npm run deploy, and then I would run that command. I don't have GitHub repo set up for this one. This was just for a tutorial, but so just running this command, it would bring your site up to the URL that you had indicated in the configuration, and you should be good to go. The current branch that you are running deploy from should be not like GH pages or your deployment branch. You can run it from master, for example. Otherwise, if you run it from the deployment branch, this will give you an error and say you have to choose a different branch. But running it from master or any other branch won't mean that it would push any code there. It would mean that you would use the deployment branch from the config to push up the code. But just to, I guess, to be safe, don't use master. And yeah, that's all for the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out my React and TypeScript examples, and see you in the next video.